If you are a single pensioner in Australia, or you are about to turn pension age, what I'm about to tell you could change how much money lands in your bank account every single fortnight. Centrelink has quietly rolled out new payment rates and new eligibility rules, and thousands of singles who were told you don't qualify last year might actually qualify right now. Stay with me for the next few minutes because I am going to break down the exact numbers, the exact thresholds, and the mistakes that are costing pensioners hundreds of dollars every fortnight without them even realising it. Welcome back to Australia Pension and Centrelink Update, the channel that keeps you ahead of every payment change, every rate rise, and every rule. Centrelink doesn't exactly go out of its way to explain clearly. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell because we cover these updates the moment they happen, and missing one update could mean missing out on money you are entitled to. Today we are focusing entirely on singles. If you live alone, if you are divorced, widowed, separated, or simply have never had a partner, this video is for you because the rules for singles are different from the rules for couples, and a lot of people get this mixed up. Let's start with the number everyone wants to know. As of the 20th of March 2026, the maximum age pension for a single person sits at $1,200.90 per fortnight. That includes the pension supplement and the energy supplement rolled into the one payment. On an annual basis, that works out to roughly $31,223 a year for someone receiving the full single rate. This is not a small adjustment either. Singles received an increase of $22.20 per fortnight compared to the previous rate, and this happened automatically. If you are already receiving the pension, you did not need to apply for this increase, fill out a form, or call Centrelink. It was applied directly to your existing payment. Now here is where it gets interesting, and this is the part most videos and most articles completely skip over. The maximum rate is only what you get if you pass both the income test and the assets test with room to spare. Most singles are not getting the full $1,200.90. They are getting a part pension, and the amount depends entirely on how much income you have coming in and how much your assets are worth. So let's talk about both of these tests properly because understanding them is the difference between leaving money on the table and getting every dollar you are owed. Starting with the income test. If you are single, Centrelink allows you to earn a certain amount before your pension starts reducing. Once your income goes above that threshold, your pension reduces by 50 cents for every dollar you earn over the limit. That is a steep taper rate, so even a small amount of extra income can shave a real amount off your fortnightly payment. Because of the March indexation, the upper income limit, meaning the point where your pension cuts off completely, rose by $44.40 per fortnight for singles. That means the cutoff point where singles lose the pension entirely is now higher than it was before, sitting at $2,619.80 per fortnight in income. If your income sits between the free area and that cut-off point, you are likely eligible for at least a part pension, even if Centrelink told you otherwise a year or two ago. This is a critical point, so let me repeat it clearly. If you were assessed as ineligible for the pension in the past because your income was slightly too high, the goalposts have moved. The threshold is now higher. It is absolutely worth reapplying or asking Centrelink to reassess your situation because plenty of singles who were knocked back before now sit comfortably inside the new limits. Next, let's talk about deeming rates, because this trips up more people than almost anything else in the entire pension system. Deeming is how Centrelink calculates the income your financial assets are assumed to generate, regardless of what they are actually earning you in real life. This includes money in savings accounts, term deposits, shares, and superannuation.
They apply their own deeming formula, and that deemed amount counts as income for the purposes of your pension calculation.
The lower deeming rate
a lot of singles panic when they hear this, but here is the practical takeaway.
And this applies to the
because
first
the lower deeming rate is relatively low at 1.25%.
Anything above that amount is deemed at the higher rate of
accounts or term
3.25%.
deposits, rather than
so
assets
if you have,
that
say,
generate
$100,000 sitting in savings and term deposits, Centrelink does not care what interest rate your bank is actually
What actually
paying
matters
you.
more for most retirees is the assets test. So let's move to that now. The assets test looks at what you own, not what you earn. This includes your car, your furniture, any investment properties, shares, superannuation, and savings. But importantly, it does not include the value of your primary home if you are what Centrelink calls a homeowner. This distinction between homeowners and non-homeowners is massive and changes your asset limits significantly. If you own your home, your asset thresholds are considerably lower than if you are renting or do not own property, because Centrelink assumes homeowners already have a substantial asset in the form of their house that they don't need to sell to fund retirement. Non-homeowner singles get a higher asset threshold to compensate for the fact that they are likely paying rent and don't have that equity behind them. Now, why does all of this matter right now in 2026 specifically? Because these thresholds move every March and every September, and if you are not checking in every 6 months, you could be sitting on outdated information that either makes you think you are not eligible when you actually are, or worse, you are receiving a payment amount that hasn't been reassessed against your current circumstances. Centrelink does not always proactively tell you when the rules shift in your favour. That responsibility often falls on you. Let's talk about who exactly should be paying close attention to this update. First, if you are approaching pension age, which is currently 67 for anyone born after the 1st of January 1957, you need to know these numbers before you apply, not after. Second, if you are already on a part pension and your income or asset situation has changed even slightly, whether that's inheriting money, selling a property, or your superannuation balance shifting, you should be checking whether the new thresholds change your entitlement. Third, if you were rejected for the pension in the past 12 to 18 months, specifically because your income or assets sat just above the old limits, it is genuinely worth applying again, because those limits have moved upward and you might now fall within range. There is also the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card to think about, which is separate from the pension itself, but incredibly valuable for singles whose income is too high to receive the pension, but still relatively modest. This card gives you cheaper medications through the pharmaceutical benefits scheme and access to bulk billed doctor visits in many cases. The income threshold for this card was reset back in November 2022 to $90,000 for singles, and indexation on that threshold resumed in September 2025, meaning it is also worth checking even if you don't qualify for the pension itself. So what should you actually do with all of this information? My honest advice, and I say this on every single one of these update videos, is do not assume anything about your eligibility based on what you were told even a year ago. Centrelink's website has an online estimator where you can plug in your income and assets and get a rough figure of what you might be entitled to under the current rates. It takes about 10 minutes. If that estimator suggests you might be eligible or eligible for more than you are currently receiving, book an appointment with Centrelink or use their online account through MyGov to formally request a reassessment. Do not wait for a letter to arrive, because in a lot of cases that letter simply doesn't come unless you initiate the review yourself. I also want to address something I see constantly in the comments on this channel. People assume that because they have some savings or because they own their home outright, they automatically won't qualify for any pension at all. That is very often wrong. Plenty of singles who own their home outright and have savings well into six figures still receive a part pension because the assets test threshold for homeowner singles is higher than most people expect. And even a part pension comes with valuable extras like the pensioner concession card, which unlocks discounts on council rates, utilities, public transport, and healthcare costs that often add up to more value than the cash payment itself. Before I wrap up, one more thing worth mentioning. If your only income is from your own superannuation and you're drawing down an account-based pension, remember that this gets assessed under both the income test through deeming rules and the assets test based on your account balance. A lot of singles get confused thinking their super is invisible to Centrelink once they retire. It absolutely is not. Structuring how and when you draw down your super can genuinely affect your pension entitlement. So if your situation is even slightly complex, it is worth having a conversation with a financial counsellor, many of which are free through community organisations, before making big decisions about your super or your savings. So to summarise everything we covered today, the full single-age pension is now $1,200.90 per fortnight following the March 2026 indexation. The income cut-off for singles has risen to $2,619.80 per fortnight. Deeming rates sit at 1.25% and 3.25% depending on how much you hold in financial assets. And crucially, If you were told you were ineligible in the past, these updated thresholds mean it is worth checking again right now. If this video helped clarify where you stand, do me a favour and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more pensioners who need this information and don't know where to find it. Drop a comment below telling me whether you're currently on a full pension, a part pension, or still checking your eligibility. I read every single comment and I often turn your questions into future videos. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on to Australia Pension and Centrelink update, because the September rates will be released later this year, and when they land, we will break them down here first before anyone else. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.